Hello brothers, and welcome to Sigma Old Man channel. Love doesn't announce itself, it slips through the cracks of routine and rewires everything you thought was ordinary. Science backs it up. Researchers at the University of London found that the brain's decision-making centers literally dim when deep affection takes over, like a city grid surrendering to a blackout. Now picture what happens when that surge of unfiltered emotion collides with a man who thrives outside every social blueprint, a Sigma. This isn't the rom-com version of love, where predictable texts and stage selfies prove devotion. When a woman falls for a Sigma man, her signals are quieter, stranger, and far more revealing. You might even miss them if you're expecting the usual heart-eye emojis and matching hoodies. Today we're decoding those covert tells, the subtle recalibrations that happen when her fascination meets his untamed independence. Buckle up, it's part psychological thriller, part comedy of human nature, and entirely impossible to fake. Number 1. She finds joy in the unscheduled. When a woman falls for a Sigma man, she starts to treat time the way he does, as something alive, not a calendar to conquer. The usual craving for neatly planned dates fades. Instead, she discovers a quiet thrill in the unscheduled moments that appear without warning. A late-night drive after a long day, a quick coffee run that turns into an hour of laughter, a sudden invitation to walk with him when the sky is starting to rain. These small slices of unpredictability become her favorite chapters. It's not about being careless. It's about valuing the rare intervals when nothing is scripted and everything feels real. Her friends might wonder why she doesn't demand more structure. But she isn't lowering her standards. She's upgrading her sense of presence. With him, she learns that intimacy isn't measured by a shared Google Calendar or the frequency of fancy dinners. It's in the weight of a conversation that starts at midnight and drifts past sunrise. It's in the comfort of knowing that when he does reach out, it's because he truly wants to, not because a date night was penciled in weeks ago. This shift is subtle but powerful. She stops tying her happiness to fixed plans, which frees her from the quiet resentment that often hides in expectation. She's not waiting for Friday night. She's awake to Tuesday afternoon. The ordinary hours gain a texture she never noticed before because she's tuned to the possibility that he might step into them. It doesn't mean she abandons her own routine or goals. In fact, she becomes more grounded in her own life because she's no longer chasing a timetable. Her independence sharpens even as her connection with him deepens. The Sigma man senses this difference. He's drawn to someone who understands that time is a gift, not a leash. The more she embraces the unscheduled, the more space he feels to offer those sudden, genuine invitations that define his way of bonding. What she's really doing is meeting him at the level where spontaneity and authenticity live. That's why those unplanned moments, brief as they are, end up carrying more meaning than 100 carefully arranged evenings. In loving him this way, she quietly proves that the best memories don't need reservations. They need openness. Number 2, her friends notice she's less noisy. When a woman is genuinely in love with a Sigma man, the social buzz that once fueled her starts to feel thin. The group chats that used to light up her phone now seem like static. Weekend brunches where everyone competes to out-talk each other begin to taste bland. Not because she's retreating from the world, but because her attention has shifted to something richer. It's not submission, it's selective focus. She's not suddenly shy or trying to impress him with quiet obedience. Instead, her mind is absorbed by the layered complexity of the man she's drawn to. A Sigma rarely hands over his thoughts in easy sound bites. Understanding him requires observation, patience, and a different kind of listening. That mental investment naturally trims the noise around her. She starts choosing conversations that have weight instead of volume. Friends who thrive on constant updates might notice she responds slower, or she's less interested in dissecting every minor drama. This isn't a loss of personality. In many ways, it's a sharpening. Her time and energy feel too valuable to scatter on endless small talk. She becomes more deliberate with her words, more intentional with her social life. The people who matter, those who can match her new depth, stay close while the rest fade without a fight. Her friends might misread the change as distance, but it's actually presence of mind. She's cultivating a quieter inner space where real connection can breathe. Loving a Sigma doesn't make her smaller, it makes her more precise. The chatter that once entertained her can't compete with the magnetic pull of a relationship that demands and rewards her full attention. Number 3, she mirrors his rhythm, not his style. When a woman falls for a Sigma man, she doesn't imitate him in the obvious ways. There's no sudden shift in wardrobe to match his understated look, no borrowed slang to sound like his echo. The mirroring happens at a quieter level, her sense of timing. Without realizing it, she begins to match the rhythm of his life, the cadence of his responses, the natural ebb and flow of his availability. If he's someone who answers messages after a thoughtful pause, she stops expecting instant replies and starts pacing her own. When his energy spikes late at night instead of early morning, she finds herself more awake and alert during those hours, not to please him, but because their conversations thrive there. It's less about scheduling and more about an intuitive adjustment, as if her internal clock has recalibrated to meet him where he naturally exists. This shift isn't surrender, it's resonance. She still keeps her own priorities intact, but her awareness of his tempo becomes second nature. She knows when to lean in and when to give space without the awkward guesswork most relationships require. Friends might not spot it, but he feels it. The seamless alignment that lets them connect without words. It's a sign of deep attunement, the kind that can't be faked. By syncing with his unpredictable rhythm instead of forcing him into hers, she shows that she values his autonomy and trusts the unique pace of their connection. It's a dance without choreography, and it speaks louder than any matching outfit or borrowed phrase ever could. Number 4, she becomes fiercely gatekeeping. When a woman is deeply in love with a Sigma man, her social instincts shift from open-door hospitality to quiet curation. She doesn't post a manifesto or warn anyone outright, but she becomes a subtle gatekeeper around his world. Invitations to group dinners grow selective, introductions happen sparingly, and the circle of people who actually meet him starts to tighten without explanation. This isn't about jealousy or control, it's about protection. She senses that his independence and understated presence don't mix well with every crowd. Some people feed off attention, stir drama, or treat relationships like a stage. She won't risk exposing him to that noise. Instead, she makes careful choices, inviting only those who respect boundaries and can hold a conversation without trying to dissect or perform. Friends might notice the difference. Someone who once brought new acquaintances everywhere now pauses before adding names to a guest list. She'll quietly steer plans toward environments where he can be himself, or she'll decline invitations that feel too chaotic. There's no grand explanation, just a calm conviction that not everyone deserves a seat near him. What drives this isn't possessiveness, it's loyalty to something rare. She recognizes that his life is built on self-direction and privacy, and she treats that privacy like a treasure worth guarding. By filtering the people and settings that surround them, she keeps their connection unpolluted. The Sigma man doesn't have to ask for this defense. She offers it instinctively, as if protecting a flame from wind. It's a quiet but unmistakable sign of love. The world around them narrows, not in isolation but in quality. The ones who remain are the few who truly get it, and everyone else simply drifts to the edges without ever realizing they were screened out. Number 5, her competitive edge softens only with him. Around the world she moves like a force, driven, sharp, and ready to win every argument or deadline. Her competitive streak is part of her DNA, and most people only ever see the version of her that never yields an inch. But when she's in love with a Sigma man, something rare happens. The edge softens, quietly, and without fanfare. It isn't submission, and it isn't a performance. It's the recognition that she's safe with someone who doesn't mistake openness for weakness. With him, she doesn't need to keep proving that she's unstoppable. She can share the doubts she hides from colleagues or rivals, the half-formed dreams she normally guards like state secrets. Her voice might drop when she talks about her fears, not out of shame, but because she trusts he won't weaponize them. The same woman who negotiates hard deals and commands rooms can lean against his silence and let the fight drain from her shoulders. What draws her to that softness is his perception. A Sigma man reads strength differently than most. He sees it in honesty and the courage to be unguarded. He's not dazzled by titles or the victories she racks up. He's drawn to the person underneath the drive, the one who can admit she's tired or uncertain. Knowing this, she lets the armor unclasp when they're together, a quiet privilege she doesn't extend to anyone else. This isn't about losing her independence. If anything, it sharpens it. By choosing when and where to let her defenses down, she owns her vulnerability instead of being conquered by it. She's still the shark in boardrooms and negotiations. She just doesn't bring the teeth to a dinner with him. The shift is subtle but unmistakable. The woman who competes with the world stops competing in his presence because she senses he values the whole of her, not just the victories. And number 6, she starts editing her environment. When a woman falls deeply for a Sigma man, her surroundings begin to speak for her. She doesn't announce the change, yet the atmosphere around her subtly rearranges itself to create a quiet dialogue he can step into. The playlist that fills her apartment shifts. Less random background noise, more carefully chosen tracks with layered lyrics or unusual rhythms that might catch his ear. Books appear on the coffee table or by the bedside, not as decoration but as invitations. A novel with a theme she knows will challenge his perspective, a collection of essays that matches a half-finished conversation they once had. This isn't manipulation, it's creative hospitality. She understands that a Sigma rarely forces topics or pushes for openings. So she builds an environment that does the inviting for her. A piece of art gets moved where he's sure to notice. A scent in the room hints at a place they once discussed. Even the lighting softens to encourage the kind of long, meandering talks he favors when the world feels too bright. Friends might never catch the pattern, but he will. He'll notice the way a record playing in the background seems to echo something he mentioned weeks ago. He'll pick up a book and find a passage that answers a question he hasn't asked aloud. These tiny cues become conversation starters that don't feel forced, giving him the freedom to engage on his own terms. She isn't trying to turn her home into a shrine or trap him with mood-setting tricks. What she's doing is far more subtle and intelligent, creating a shared space where curiosity grows naturally. Every small edit, what stays out, what gets tucked away, is a signal that she values the texture of their connection. By shaping her environment with such quiet precision, she shows not only that she listens, but that she's willing to meet him in the language he speaks best. Unspoken discovery. Number 7, she becomes protective of his reputation. When a woman loves a Sigma man, she becomes the quiet curator of how the world perceives him. She doesn't launch public defenses or turn every conversation into a battleground. Instead, she practices a subtle, almost surgical form of protection. If someone mischaracterizes him, calling him aloof when she knows he's simply private, she slips in a gentle correction, often so seamlessly the speaker barely notices the shift. It might be a calm, "He's actually pretty thoughtful once you know him," or a light remark that steers the talk toward truth without drama. Her motivation isn't pride or territorial jealousy. It's respect for the deliberate way he guards his own narrative. A Sigma man values mystery and keeps his life intentionally understated. Careless gossip or exaggerated stories feel like fingerprints on clean glass. She senses this instinctively and treats his reputation as something worth preserving. Even small exaggerations, someone turning a quiet evening into a wild night or misquoting a private opinion, can prompt her subtle intervention. This protective streak extends beyond words. She's careful about what photos she shares, how she describes him to new friends, even the anecdotes she allows into casual conversation. Where others might post every moment online, she edits. The details that belong to him stay off the public record. It's not secrecy for secrecy's sake, it's loyalty expressed through discretion. Those around her may never fully notice what she's doing, they just sense that cheap talk about him doesn't gain traction when she's present. Her approach is calm, never defensive, and all the more effective because of it. The Sigma man rarely asks for this kind of safeguard. He might not even be aware of the quiet corrections she makes, but he benefits from the respect she maintains in his absence. By choosing silence when others would shout and precision when others would speculate, she shows a deeper kind of devotion. Protecting his reputation isn't about ownership. It's about honoring the integrity that drew her to him in the first place. In a world eager to overshare and distort, her quiet vigilance becomes one of the clearest and rarest signs of love. Number 8, she guards their story from the public. When a woman is truly in love with a Sigma man, the relationship takes on a privacy that feels almost sacred. She doesn't tease it with half reveals or curate it for likes, There are no matching selfies, no coy captions, no carefully timed, soft launch of a hand across a dinner table. It's not secrecy out of shame. It's protection of something that doesn't need outside validation. Her phone stays in her pocket during moments other couples would rush to document. A night worth remembering becomes a memory, not a post. When friends fish for details, so when will we see him on your feed, she deflects with a smile and changes the subject. She isn't hiding him, she's guarding the intimacy they've built from the noise of public consumption. This choice reflects more than respect for his preference for solitude. It signals a deeper understanding that some connections grow stronger when they're allowed to remain unobserved. She knows algorithms reward oversharing, that gossip travels faster than truth, and she refuses to let either dictate the pace or shape of their bond. People might speculate or even tease her for keeping things offline, but she doesn't flinch. The story she shares with him isn't for audience engagement. It's for the two of them, written in private conversations, small rituals, and memories no one else will ever fully know. In a culture that measures love by visibility, her decision to stay off stage is its own quiet declaration. This relationship is real precisely because it doesn't need to be performed. Number 9, she stops selling her social persona. When she's truly in love with a Sigma man, the polished persona she once broadcast to the world starts to fade. The perfectly staged photos, the clever captions, the careful angle on every post, those habits lose their grip. Not because he demands it, but because the performance suddenly feels pointless. Around him, she isn't chasing likes or proving that her life is glossy. She shows up as herself, without filters or the subtle exaggerations she once treated as normal. The change is quiet but profound. She stops curating every outfit for the sake of a story. A dinner together might pass without a single photo, not out of secrecy, but because she's too present to think about documenting it. Conversations go unrecorded, moments stay private. The need to display happiness for an audience is replaced by the satisfaction of simply living it. Her friends might notice that her online presence grows sparse or less polished. Posts become more spontaneous or disappear altogether. There's no big announcement, no rebellious declaration, just a shift from performance to authenticity. She isn't hiding. She's reclaiming the parts of her life that belong to real experience instead of a feed. With him, she can laugh without worrying how the picture will look, share an unguarded thought without framing it as a clever quote. He draws out the version of her that doesn't need applause. The Sigma man's own indifference to public validation makes this easier. His quiet confidence tells her that the relationship doesn't need a highlight reel to be real. In that unpolished space, she finds a different kind of freedom. The pleasure of being unedited, of knowing that the connection they share is measured only by the depth of the moment, not the reach of a post. Number 10. She protects his solitude like property. When a woman is deeply in love with a Sigma man, she comes to respect his need for solitude the way some people guard a family heirloom, carefully and without fanfare. She doesn't interpret his quiet hours as distance or rejection, and she doesn't compete with them. Instead, she shields that time from interruptions, even from well-meaning friends or family who might try to fill it. If someone suggests a surprise visit when she knows he's in one of his reflective moods, she'll steer them away with an easy excuse. When her own schedule collides with his need for space, she adjusts without complaint. It isn't sacrifice, it's understanding that his alone time is not a pause in their connection, but part of what keeps it strong. She stops treating solitude like something to fix. There are no passive-aggressive texts asking why he's quiet, no hidden tally of hours apart. She might even create the buffer herself, handling small details so he can stay in his own head without being pulled back into noise. It's a silent partnership that values quality over constant presence. This behavior doesn't mean she's sidelining her own needs. On the contrary, she often uses those hours to nourish her own independence, trusting that their relationship thrives when both have room to breathe. The Sigma man notices this difference. Instead of feeling crowded or managed, he feels respected, which makes him even more willing to share his time and thoughts when he re-emerges. Her protection of his solitude is one of the clearest signs of love precisely because it asks nothing in return. It's not about earning points or proving patience. It's about recognizing that the quiet space he guards is essential to who he is, and choosing to honor it as if it were sacred. Number 11. She challenges his autonomy respectfully. When a woman truly loves a Sigma man, she doesn't tiptoe around his independence or treat his opinions like untouchable scripture. She gives his autonomy the respect it deserves, and she tests it. Her challenge isn't loud or combative. It's the kind of calm, thoughtful pushback that shows she's paying close attention and values the truth more than easy agreement. If he presents an idea, she'll question the weak spots without making it a fight. When he chooses a solitary path, she'll ask him to consider angles he might have missed, not to steer him, but to sharpen the conversation. It's less debate and more intellectual sparring, a subtle reminder that freedom and accountability can share the same room. What makes this powerful is her intent. She isn't trying to shrink his world or force him into hers. She understands that a Sigma man treasures self-direction, so every challenge comes with an undercurrent of respect. I see you as capable of hearing this. That balance, never clinging, never caging, lets him stay fully himself while knowing she won't simply nod along. He notices. A Sigma can sense when someone engages him as an equal rather than a fan. Her willingness to question his logic, even gently contradict him, tells him she's fearless enough to stand beside him, not behind him. It deepens the connection because it proves she values reality over comfort. Friends may hear their conversations and think they're just trading ideas, but beneath the surface it's more intimate than that. By offering deliberate, respectful challenge, she gives his independence the rare gift of genuine dialogue, one that strengthens both of them without ever chaining him down. Number 12, her body language rebels against convention. When a woman is drawn to a Sigma man, her body starts communicating long before words catch up. It isn't the rehearsed flirtation that magazines teach. It's a quiet rebellion against the usual social cues. Where most people instinctively pull back after a few seconds of eye contact, she stays with it, letting the silence stretch until it almost hums. That steady gaze isn't a challenge or a game. It's her unspoken way of saying, I see you and I'm not looking away. Her movements carry the same quiet defiance. In a crowded room, when others lean out to create polite space, she leans closer, narrowing the distance without making a scene. A slight tilt of the shoulders toward him, a pause that lasts a heartbeat longer than expected. These are signals of magnetism that bypass conscious thought. Even the way she stands changes, feet angled toward him when she speaks to someone else. A subtle orientation that betrays where her attention really lives. These gestures aren't calculated. They surface naturally because his presence draws her focus beyond social etiquette. She's not performing, she's attuning. The Sigma man, attuned himself to nuance, notices. He reads the steadiness of her gaze, the effortless way she closes the gap, and recognizes the honesty behind it. Friends might miss it, seeing only casual conversation. But beneath the surface, her body language tells the real story. It's a conversation without words, where every extra second of closeness and every held look is a quiet confession. She's already chosen to connect, and no polite convention can disguise it. Love between a woman and a Sigma man rarely announces itself with fireworks or hashtags. It unfolds in quiet recalibrations. The way she lets the noise of the world fade, how her timing begins to match his unspoken rhythm, how she guards his privacy as fiercely as she protects her own. She edits her surroundings to spark deeper conversations, shields his solitude without being asked, and offers the kind of respectful challenge that keeps him sharp. Even her body language tells the story, holding eye contact a heartbeat longer, leaning closer when others lean away. Every gesture is small on the surface, but together they paint something unmistakable. A love built on presence instead of performance. Intimacy instead of exhibition. There are no filters, no audience, no need to prove a thing. It's a connection that breathes on its own, private, deliberate, and stronger. For every moment it stays unadvertised. If you felt the pull of these quiet signs, share this journey with others who value depth over display. Subscribe for more rare insights, leave a like if this spoke to you, and drop a comment to keep the conversation alive. Real love deserves to be celebrated, even when it chooses to stay off the feed.